Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got Michaela McNamara. She's got an extensive experience in marketing and in the med spa industry, transitioning from med spa owner to med spa coach now. She's currently with her husband in South America, living the dream, digital nomads. And I'm really happy to have her on the show to talk about building a business, finances, early retirement. And so, Michaela, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate being part of this project and hopefully supporting any listeners.
Yeah, like I said, I really love connecting with entrepreneurs across the globe, doing amazing things, trying to bring the audience awareness that, you know, you can do things a little bit differently, think outside the box. So, talk about your journey. I know you're a med spa owner, now you're a coach and living the dream. So talk about that journey and I'm excited to dive into the combo.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually started out as a medical marketer. Before I even made it into the medical aesthetics world, I was working primarily with doctors and I was working for a large hearing aid franchise. So I took the lead in marketing their services, increasing their profit, and I did that for a decade. So I'm very much like a retired corporate girl. And I decided to take this information that I had and channel it into starting my own med spa, which I believe that businesses should be profitable instantly. A lot of people will tell you, oh, it's 3 years before you ever even think about cutting yourself a check. I don't believe that at all. If I'm not making money the first day, I'm not interested in doing it. So when I started my med spa, the inner spa, it was immediately successful, booked out very quickly. And I think that is largely in part to the most important skill that any med spa owner can have, and that's marketing. My decade of experience as a medical marketer allowed me to grow my business profitably and quickly. And also, all that experience in business operations was really helpful as well. Eventually, I moved to another state and I decided to move my business. Not to move my business, to sell my business. I sold it for a profit, which was lovely. And I was still single at that time, living in Texas. And I decided to start coaching. A friend of mine was a business coach. She had been very successful. She encouraged me to get into the industry. And within the first 2 weeks of coaching, I had the largest hair restoration franchise in the world offer me a very lucrative salary to come on their team and be their head marketer. But I decided that I would prefer work with lots of people instead of just one person. So that's how Med Spa Coach was born.
Yeah, very fascinating, and I really love how you're very strategic and what I call smart about going it. And it's like in real estate, they'd say your profit is made when you buy, not when you sell, and that's very similar way of thinking. Is you don't want to you basically want to make a profit on day one as opposed to struggling and toiling, and then 5-10 years later you have nothing. But like I said, so talk about this. What inspired you to start coaching aesthetic business owners as opposed to having you? I know you sold your med spa, but what inspired you to start helping others?
I did have experience for a couple years when I moved out of medical marketing into working as a director for a med spa in New York City. And in that time, I realized and I say this with so much love and so much respect, the shockingly low level of business acumen in this industry. It's actually unbelievable. I meet with new clients every day and they are not even tracking their monthly income, which to me is it's the most basic metric you could possibly have your eyes on. So it became important to me to help these business owners realize that being the successful 7 figure, 8 figure business owner, it's not corporate mumbo jumbo that you cannot possibly achieve. All right. I just saw a TikTok recently where they were interviewing a billionaire and he was saying that the problems that you have when you're making like $50,000 a year as a CEO, it's the same sort of problems when you're making 8 figures. You're having the same issues. You're making the same decisions. You're just thinking at a completely different level. So it's been really wonderful for me to work with all these different surgeons and med spa owners and just teach them it's actually not harder to make much more money. Your life is easier when you make more money, and your workload decreases when you make more money because you're able to delegate so much more. So I just feel really passionate about my coaching because I'm taking people who are like trapped in $300,000 a year kind of cycle. And more than half of that is going to expenses. And then when you think about their personal salary and the fact that they're a doctor, that's really not good profit. That's not a good profit at all, which is why I call myself first and foremost a profit coach. Yes, I teach marketing. Yes, I teach branding. But the most important thing I teach is making a profitable business.
Yeah, I would think we should have you on for another episode of Profit First, which we've had a lot of those types of coaches. Yeah, it's interesting because in med school they only teach you how to be the best doctor, but then they shield you from the what's really happening. And I love med school, but I hated residency. And once I got a taste of what that was about, I was like, I'm out of here. The question is, when you talk about financial acumen and profit, what do you see the most common mistakes aesthetic business owner make when it comes to marketing and operation?
Let's go ahead and start with operations. I think the biggest mistake is one I already mentioned, and that's not truly understanding your financial state. I should be able to ask you how much money you made this month. You know that off the top of your head. So many times I'm speaking to CEOs and they have to pull up reports that they don't even know how to use in incredibly outdated systems, trying to figure out, like, oh, I don't know, how much money did I actually make last year? So keeping track of how much money you're making, where that money is coming from, that's a big one. And then which team members are profitable for you as well. So when people work with me, I get them on a spreadsheet that separates their team members by income. Obviously, certain team members, like an accountant, for instance, isn't going to be necessarily bringing in a ton of profit, but I actually believe everyone on your team should bring in a profit. Even an accountant, a clever accountant should be saving you a lot of money and you should be counting that information. So, a huge operational issue I'm seeing is a really a lack of understanding of their financial state. Also, no savings. This is not a broke household. This is a business. And so many business owners are essentially living paycheck to paycheck and they are anxious before payroll week. That cannot be the case anymore. One of the first things we do when working together is focus on what your operational costs actually are and how we're going to create recurring revenue streams that cover them and protect you financially. And then moving into the marketing aspect of it, this is so odd to me because specifically I work in medical aesthetics. Aesthetics is half the word. Now, I do work with all sorts of different doctors, but primarily cosmetic surgeons, med spas, cosmetic dentistry. But what you do fundamentally is make people look and feel better. And a lot of these businesses go on your Instagram page, I go on your website, and I'm seeing incredibly disturbing and graphic imagery. People are marketing to their clients as though their clients are their colleagues. Your colleagues want to see under the skin. They want to see the facial anatomy. They want to get into the grit of it. So if you have a mentorship program, that sort of marketing I actually encourage. But your med spa or whatever medical center that you are promoting, it needs to be aesthetic, which is why one of the first things I do when I onboard a new client is I do what I call my med spa makeover, where we make sure that the way that you are presenting yourself visually online is so appealing and attractive to new clients and not actively terrifying them.
Yeah, interesting. And so you mentioned this idea of the importance of switching to a membership model for recurring revenue. And how can aesthetic businesses implement this model effectively?
A big thing that I teach is it's time to banish the beauty bank. So many med spas are living in like the 90s med spa mentality where they have this beauty bank. People are paying like 30, 50, $100 into it every month. And it results in them getting like a 5% or 10% discount off of injectables. This is not appealing. It's not a good offer. When I pay someone for something, I want to get something in return. And I want to know that I'm going to have a real transformation, a genuine result. Essentially, beauty banks are like purchasing coupon books. And coupon books, they're not really a thing anymore. And
Mm.
even beyond that, a 5 or 10% discount, like this is not selling people anymore. So, what I teach my clients to do is switch to an appealing and transformative membership model. The membership that you offer should be a result. So a lot of people are doing like, hey, join our beauty bank, get 20% off tirzepatide or semaglutide every single month. There's no result there. I'm just buying a chemical. And if I'm buying a chemical from you, then that means I could get that chemical from anyone else. And if I can get that chemical from anyone else, then I want to get it for as cheap as humanly possible. So it comes down to just all of these physicians and surgeons and really talented, incredible professionals basically fighting to see who can be the cheapest. And then once you won the clients, I don't really know what you've actually won because now you have all these clients that you're not profiting a penny off of. So maybe you looked it online, but you're not paying yourself, which is why transformative memberships like a weight loss membership that has a very clear goal, lose 25 pounds in 6 months based on your lifestyle, obviously based on your current need, assessing that. That is what people want. People want to buy a membership that is, wear that dress you really wanted to wear to your daughter's wedding, or like fit into that outfit that you could wear before your kids. Like, marketing is supposed to be a very human and emotional experience. And so many med spa owners, they don't know how to market. So they're just like throwing out the information and people aren't interested. Nobody wants the memberships you're buying. So when I have new clients hop on calls with me, one of the first things they say is, I love everything you're doing, but I don't want to do the membership thing. They don't work. I've tried. Nobody wants them. My clients aren't interested. This just isn't going to work in my area. That's ridiculous. It's not working because you're not doing it correctly. It's not that memberships are bad. Memberships are fundamentally inclusive. They allow people who perhaps could not typically afford a high ticket service to now have access to that service by being able to spread out those payments. Memberships should only bring in more and more clientele. And if your memberships are not booking out, if at least 30% of your customers are not in your membership, then that means your membership is bad.
Interesting. The Another follow-up question to that is this: with how can smaller med spas compete with larger franchises offering services at lower prices, and what are some actionable steps that listeners can immediately take? Because you mentioned 300K, which isn't much, but you can significantly boost that. How can med spas start doing that?
So, a lot of these larger med spas, it's actually difficult for them to market transformative results. I'm talking like extremely large med spas, like 5+ locations, because they have maybe 80 injectors. They have huge teams. So it's hard to be very result oriented when your results are incredibly variable due to your team size. So most of these franchises start offering cost as an incentive. And once you make the conversation about the cost, all people are going to be interested in is the lowest amount. And my thought is, you don't want those clients. You genuinely do not want those clients. You want the clients who are interested in purchasing a result. There are people, even in this economy, who are willing to pay $20,000 plus on cosmetic enhancement because they believe in your results. And when you go to these like really large franchises, it's a cookie cutter result and you don't always know what you're going to get and you don't feel intimately marketed to or connected with your specific provider. So it's just a lack of connection essentially. It becomes a unique approach to marketing once we're dealing with these larger franchises, which is why I actually think if you have 5 locations or less, it's so much easier for you to get clients. I actually think that your marketing process is more simple.
Interesting. How can people find you and follow you and reach out to you and find out more about the work that you do?
Sure, you can follow me on Instagram at MedSpaCoach. My name is Michaela McNamara. You can go to michaelamcnamara.com. I'm also starting my podcast, The Money Making Med Spa. You can reach me there as soon as that drops. Essentially, I have a lot of different places where you can find me. So just come and find me. Book call. A call with me is absolutely no charge. And I'm happy to see where you're at and show you where you can be with me in 6 months.
Yeah, I love that. And I encourage the listeners to check out Michaela's socials, give them a follow and check out her work and see if it aligns with you. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciated the opportunity.